Good morning. My name is David Gentleman. I'm here to talk to you about Americans developing cultural sensitivity. Why is this important? Well, in today's world of ever-increasing intercultural, intercontinental economic development and tourism, Americans need to develop greater cultural sensitivity, awareness, and adaptation to the world and to the cultures around them, especially those that they come in contact with on a daily or weekly basis. What will we learn? We will learn about what is culture, what is cultural sensitivity, what are the levels of cultural sensitivity. Before I began this research, I was not aware that there was such a thing as levels of cultural sensitivity. How do I determine my level of cultural sensitivity? And then, what are some ways that I can go ahead and further increase my cultural sensitivity? Those are the things that we will learn today. First off, what is culture? Culture is behavior patterns that we learn from society, from around us. What is acceptable behavior? We also learn them from our parents, and they're treating us and teaching us how we are supposed to, and respecting our elders. It's a set of values, again, from our parents, from society, from peers, from what the media says we're supposed to value. And it's also from religion. Many of us in America are religious. Even those who have no religious affiliation, again, they have shared beliefs that you could group them then into their own cultural group. Cultural groups in America come in, there are a variety of ways to group them. For example, country of origin, where they came from, whether they came from Africa, from Germany, from China, from South America, right? That's each one of those that have immigrated to America, that's a cultural group. In terms of cities, we all know that people from Texas, California, and New York, we all speak differently. We all have a little bit of a different accent, and we use different words to express ourselves in different ways. And then also another cultural group is based upon, again, our religious beliefs. Whether you're a Mormon, Catholic, or Muslim, these are all distinct cultural groups that have their own value system and beliefs. What about your cultural group? At least everyone belongs to one cultural group. You can, sometimes you may belong to more than one, but most definitely you belong to at least one. So let's take a moment and think about what cultural groups you belong to. Okay, what criteria did you use to come up with those groups? Did you find yourself possibly belonging to more than one cultural group? I think so. It's important for us to understand those cultural groups and the values that come along with that. Why is this? That's because it's the beginning of developing cultural awareness and cultural sensitivity. We develop cultural sensitivity by developing cultural awareness, by becoming aware of the cultural differences between our culture and another culture. Not just their behaviors, but also the way they think. What they think about us, what we think about them. When we discover those differences, we do not place values on those differences. We do not think of them as being wrong and we being right. As we develop further in cultural sensitivity, we're actually able to go ahead and change the way that we behave to fit in with the different culture. All right. There are 6 levels of cultural sensitivity that we will talk about. Denial, defense, minimization, acceptance, adaptation, and integration. Let's talk about them in a little more detail. Denial. Denial, the person is unaware that there are differences. They don't believe that the way they behave, the way that they communicate is different from other people's. They believe that as long as we can both speak English, You should be able to understand me. I should be able to understand you. Okay? They don't realize that there's a really big communication gap. That people are not just looking at the words, but what words you're using, what expressions you're using, even your body language. They don't understand that. It's important that you recognize, to move on to this from this level, it's important that they recognize this difference. And in defense, second level, all right, this person realized at this level, you realize that the differences do exist. But those differences are negative. It's a case where someone thinks, yeah, I can see that I'm different. I'm having problems communicating because we're culturally different. But it's a bad thing. It's not a good thing that there are differences. Okay, if you're a minority, you can feel threatened. You feel that what you value, you're being forced to abandon your values and to take on the values of the dominating culture. The third level of minimization is often the dominating culture. People in the dominating culture have this cultural kind of sensitivity. It's where you view your values as being universal, as being the norm, universally norm. And just other cultures are different from that, but they haven't quite developed to where your level is of, and it should adapt to your values. You assign values to these differences as being superior, inferior, being better or worse. The fourth level of cultural sensitivity is acceptance. Okay, this is where you realize that what is normal behavior in your culture is not going to have the same meaning in another culture. This is important for those of us who are traveling overseas as tourists. To be able to attain this level of cultural sensitivity, we can be a little more sensitive or a little more careful about how we communicate, what hand gestures we use. For the fifth level of adaptation, which is adaptation, we're able to go ahead and shift our perspective. Okay? The beginning of this, the shift is a mental shift. We're able to go ahead and shift, exchange our value systems for another culture's value systems. As we progress further in this level, then from the adaptation becomes from not just mentally, not just what we think, but actually our behavior, our actions can actually change as well to fit in. For people living overseas, this is a reasonable goal for them to achieve. The final level, integration. This is actually where you actually are able to easily change your frame of reference from your culture to another culture. Or in this case, where maybe it's not just the culture, your culture and another culture, but people from other cultures, you're able to shift your frame of reference to try to look at things from their perspective, from their frame of reference. It's very good when you are dealing with in a company and you have many different cultures represented there. Right? Third culture kids are a good example of people who are at this level. But the one problem with third culture kids is a case of identity. They have taken so much from the host culture that they have difficulty identifying with where they belong, whether it's the host culture, whether it's a culture that the parents came from. Assessing cultural awareness. How do we know which of these 6 levels we fit in? There's different ways to do this. We can do this by the handouts that I gave you. That's a start in being able to go ahead and progress further in culture and assessing your level. All right. There are online assessments that you can take as well as these to figure out your level. All right. Thirdly would be professionally. There is an organization called Tor World that they have an array of assessments for people who, for companies who plan to send their employees overseas.